God, I'm never going to not be able to say that. Hi, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Ann Brennan. This is
Anastassia.
And we are the Marketing Moms. Our job is to make your life as small business owners easier. We want to give you marketing in a way that makes sense. And so today, so here's the thing. I do want to say that it's not always marketing. Sometimes it's just we run a successful successful marketing agency. We've learned some things along the way, and sometimes we feel like, gosh, if everybody knew this, they'd be doing it. It's live again? It says it was recording. No, it's recording.
Okay. Sorry.
So if this is live, sorry, we're just going to have to do it. But I know it's recording for sure. So hopefully it's doing that. So our goal at Marketing Moms is to make it easy for you, but also to give you things that are more than marketing, things that are going to make your life easier. If you are a successful business owner, if you are truly an entrepreneur, then you have something in you that makes you want to be a lifelong learner. You're probably waking up in the morning and reading. You're probably looking at videos and looking at podcasts and looking at webinars. And we want to tell you what we do and how we make the most out of every single learning experience. So I want to start by that. You want to talk about being adventurous?
Oh, yeah, be adventurous. Look for things that you haven't looked for before. I mean, I know there are people that, we say podcasts are everywhere, but not everybody's watching the podcast. I mean, not everybody listens to podcasts. A lot of people don't know what the heck a podcast is.
Right.
So, I mean, and
they'll tell me, oh my gosh, I don't listen to podcasts. I'm like, go listen to podcasts.
Yes.
You're wasting, like my husband, I love him, but he drives to work and he listens to music and I'm sure he loves it. But I'm like, you could be learning on that 45-minute commute. Mm-hmm. You could be learning the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's funny because, we've listened to the radio and then I'm like, oh, because even my kids, like we all listen to podcasts. We're constantly learning, so be adventurous. Look in places that you haven't looked before,
exactly.
Like look at some publications online or, I mean, who's reading print really anymore? But like look for things and maybe look at things that you may not have agreed with, publications that you may not have agreed with in the past,
Absolutely.
Just be adventurous, like
exactly.
you don't have to like it, but you never know where you're going to pick something up.
Right. That's the other thing. Conferences. So we're coming. I'm coming in September, or October. I'm coming out to San Diego. Hopefully, gosh, I hope it doesn't interfere with anything we got going on. But I'm going to come back out and learn more about the metaverse. I didn't even know what the metaverse was 3 days ago. But now I do, and I want to know more. So I'm going to, even though it seems to have nothing to do with marketing, we think it does. And if you go back and watch our video from last week, you'll see that. By the way, it looks like we're still in San Diego. We are still in San Diego, but when you are watching this, it will be Monday, and we will be back in Maryland, and it won't be nearly as beautiful as this.
And actually, you know what, though? I've been thinking, I'm like, this is lovely, and I think this is how we need to record our podcast.
Together?
Yes.
This is so much more fun.
In the sun.
We're just going to have to find some way to do that.
On your deck.
Yeah.
I'll come over.
It would be great.
And we'll put the dogs in the crate.
Maybe I'll
well, let's talk about Luna.
Oh my gosh!
Because like that picture that you showed me this morning, I think that's what we need to talk about.
Which picture? So I have to tell you a story about Luna. So I love my husband. I know I keep saying this, but I really love my husband.
She does.
I really do. He loses things a lot. And so a couple of weeks ago, we were at home, and I set his phone and his wallet on the edge of the table. And then when we were going out that night, we were going to a bar to watch Zane play, and he needed his ID and his COVID card so that he could get into the bar. And when we were leaving, he's like, I can't find my wallet. And I'm like, how do you lose a wallet? How do you lose a wallet? And like, it was right there. So what did you do? Well, 3 or 4 days later, we found it.
Oh, you didn't tell me that part of it.
3 or 4 days later, we found it. It was under the couch with the little teeth marks in it, because Luna had it. So this week, our son Blaze was at our house, and I guess I didn't warn Blaze about Luna. And so he sent me a picture, this is the picture you're talking about, of his wallet with little teeth marks in it and all the stuff pulled out of it. Luckily, she didn't need anything important, and his wallet survived. But yes, lovely, lovely, lovely Luna.
You know what I just remembered? When Athena was little, she used to take my wallet and sit in the back seat and like pull all the cards out.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've totally forgotten about that. I had to go and buy a wallet with a zipper all the way around it because she was too little to open it.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you even get my wallet? Like, you know, like,
it's funny how your memories come up like that, right?
You know, she was crying, and I'm like, here, take my wallet, and she just pulled everything out. And then when I got the zipper one, I'd still give her my wallet, but she couldn't open it. So
exactly,
that's funny.
That's so funny.
Anyway,
yeah.
Back
to the podcast. So yes, Luna is very, very naughty, and she's part of my adventurous life. But yes, going back to being adventurous, be adventurous in your learning. Pay attention to things that maybe are outside your comfort zone. We came to this conference actually, and one of the things that was interesting about us coming back this year is that 2 years ago when we came, before COVID, right before COVID, like COVID had happened.
It was starting. Yeah.
But right before everything closed down, we were out here, and Anastassia and I were like, we're not going to do this anymore. Every year we come, everything's the same. This year I decided to do it. Didn't really tell Anastassia. Just said, hey,
I got tickets.
And she's like, why? Because we weren't going to do this anymore. Well, I will tell you, after COVID, and because of this metaverse stuff, and because of the world we live in right now, everything has changed. We were looking at numbers yesterday. What did she say? 90% of all purchases start online. They start online. And then 60% of the purchase process happens without you ever being involved.
Yes, before they even come to you, even if they're coming into the shop, the process, the decision has been made.
Right.
And that's why we talk about social media being so important, because if you only have a website, that's your only way of communicating who you are and what you do and what makes you different. You know,
and it's the only thing. Your website is the only thing you own,
yes,
too, right? Definitely. Which is why the metaverse is going to be good. Keep talking about it. We're going to come back to it, but that's this whole adventurous part, right? We thought, really, should we go? I mean, we hear the same thing over and over, but maybe, and so we came back. And actually, you sat in on Ann Hadley. Yeah. I sat in on Mark Schaefer, even though I've seen him 3 times. You've seen her 2 times. Yes. And we learned something from each of them.
You know what else, though, I find with them is that they're such good speakers and they're so engaging. And I mean, Ann Hadley, nobody can tell a story like Ann Hadley.
No.
She was telling us about selling sofas that she had at her like rental house. And there was a whole big story, and I'm riveted. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
And I walked out of that so inspired. And that's actually when I was talking to my husband about we were talking about conferences and things like that, about all the different aspects of it. And he was like, you know, what I love about going to conferences is that I feel inspired when I leave.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? Like, and it was after that I went to Ann Hadley. So I was like, yeah, because I didn't talk to him yesterday.
Oh, that's fine.
So that's what I was like, oh, and I think that's part of that be adventurous, right? Like, go and find the thing that's going to inspire you to do what you're doing, you know, to make a difference, whether or not it's in your marketing or if it's in your business. Like, look for, I mean, we're all about marketing here at Marketing Mums, but you know, you can, a lot of these things that we talk about, you can implement them.
Oh yeah, especially for this lifelong the lifelong learning thing. It can be anything. It can be, you know, especially the adventurous part. If you step outside of your comfort zone and you start following things you weren't following, you're probably going to be inspired in some way for your business. At least if you love your business, if you're passionate about your business, because it's always there. It's always in the back of your mind. So that lifelong learning and being adventurous, it really, it's so important. So that's, I think as we go through this, we're going to give you more, but let's really talk about that. I want you to think about that. Be adventurous. All right.
I'm going to let you talk about this part because I do not read.
Yes.
I do. Wait a minute. I do read. I do read articles. I'm not big on the books as much. I listen. That is really how I consume, is listening. So.
Yeah, but I think it applies to both. So getting the most out of your reading. One of the things that I was saying to Anastassia is, and she knows this actually, because I read a book and then I come in and I say, oh, you know what I just read? And I tell her about it. And often you guys will hear it, right? I will come here and say, hey, I just read this book and this is what it said. And I'm doing that not just because I'm wanting to give you the information, and I do, And not because I want to give you the information, and I really do, because Anastassia is such a huge part of my business, and what I learned, she should learn, right? Because we work together. But because when I teach it to you, when I tell you about it, it reinforces it in me, and I remember it. I remember it better. So make the most out of that. Write things down. Write it down, and then if you're a business owner, write it down, and then create a blog post about it. Because the truth is that there is a way that you can relate that back to your business almost every time. Just think about it. You can relate it back to your business, and you will be getting new content and creating something new. So make the most of it and take notes, but don't just take notes and then leave them there. Take notes and then think about, how can I use this in my business? How can I apply it? How can I create content out of it? Right? Think about all those things. You're going to talk about conferences.
And you could do, wait a minute, you could do, even just do a live video. That's one thing that we talked about that we
yeah.
didn't mention. So whether or not you're telling somebody, like, Anne comes and tells me, but she did say that she tells you, our audience, but, you could do that. Like, you read something, you're like, oh, this was good. This was a nugget that was awesome.
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell my people.
And here's the thing, maybe you can't do it in your business. Maybe you're a plumber and you're reading something that has nothing at all to do with plumbing, and you really can't figure out a way to make it relate to plumbing. I want to say something to you. I own a digital marketing agency. I feel like I have a pretty good personal brand. I say this a lot. I think about my personal brand because I think we all have a personal brand. We just don't all think about it. I think about my personal brand a lot, but I don't always focus on it. And so this is a great way to focus on your personal brand. What you read says a lot about you. And if you start doing live videos talking about what you're reading and what means something to you, what you're learning, I think it will help your personal brand. And that's huge, because here's the thing. Your business may not always be here. You may want to do something else. And even if your business is here, you may want to start another business. You may want to do something else and something else and something else. You might want to be a serial entrepreneur. And when you do those things, it's having that personal brand will come in handy. So yeah, make the most of your reading and do that. You want to talk about conferences and how to make the most of them?
Yes. So make a plan. When we were here 2 years ago, we planned well before we left. But
yes. But even this time we did pretty well.
We did sit down and we were like, okay, here are the things. Here's what I think that you're going to learn more from, because, for instance, Instagram and I are not buddies. Like, it's not that I don't like Instagram. I am on Instagram. I do things in the business, but it's not something that I necessarily need to focus on.
Right.
So for me to go to a lot of those Instagram things wasn't the ideal thing. TikTok, this was something that you were interested in. I don't even have the app. Now I'm going to have it because Anne has a TikTok account, and I'm going to need to make sure I know what she's doing every day.
Exactly. Because I might not tell her.
No, here I've been seeing them, but no.
Exactly.
So, so make the most out, like, make a plan and see what you want to do. The great thing is, when you're, like, for us, we have the all access pass. When we come to this, we make sure we get the best pass. It's also the one that they give us a good discount on when we're leaving. But it gives us recordings. So we know that we can go back and listen. If we're like, okay, this is something that I really want to listen to in person, because if I have questions, the person, the speaker is right there, and they always take questions afterwards for like 20 minutes. So you can go and ask them a question, go and ask them how it specifically relates to you. So we can talk about, so you can do that. Sorry. So you can do that. You can talk about, you can talk to the thing, and then go back later on and listen. Watch the presentation again, and see what else you can get out of it. So
right, and that's actually a really good point, because you can share. I know. Hope you enjoyed the music. It was awesome. So,
you're welcome.
But one of the things we talked about, and you've seen this because we did all the videos, right? We did the videos for a couple of reasons. One, because it gave us a chance to talk about what each of us learned and document it, yes. Right? If nobody watched it, that was fine.
It's fresh in our head. Yep.
Exactly. But the other reason is, or the other thing about that, when you look at, there were 3 of us here this time. There were 3 of us here last time. There were supposed to be 4 this time. Jordan had something come up and she couldn't be here, and we missed her a lot. But you you should, if you want to make the most out of a conference, don't go by yourself. bring people from your team. Think about who it is that needs to be there. Anastassia needs to be at these conferences with me. When I came the first time, I missed so many of them because I couldn't come. But also, there were things that I'm doing, and I'm like, I have to be in this because I need to know about this if I want to grow my business here. But you need to know about it from this standpoint because we're doing different things.
Yeah.
And this time, Whitney was here, and she's doing different creation stuff. So having all of us here makes a huge difference. So that's involving your team. Yeah. So involve your team. Make the most of it. Afterwards, sit down and do with your team and do a whole,
debrief?
Debrief.
Yeah.
There you go. A whole debrief of about what you learned. It's really, really important. This part, we're going to talk about taking notes and creating a document. I'll tell you, I'm going to give you my secret because this is really big. I took my notes, I've sat down, I've started my document. The document has, these are the things that we need to implement in our business. These are the things, and this is a huge part for us for this conference, is these are the clients that we're going to use these things for, right? These things are going to apply to these particular clients. And I'm highlighting specific things that I can hand to my content writer and say, hey, take this and create blogs with it. Take it and create blogs with it. So take those notes and don't just think about, okay, well, let me look. Oh, I learned that. Think about, okay, how are we going to implement it? Is there a way to use this to make our client experience better? And how am I going to create content out of what I'm doing here? Okay, that's a huge part of it. Is there anything else that you're thinking that while we're here because we do a lot of learning?
Yeah, we do. And I mean, depending on what you're doing, there's like mandatory continued education units.
Right.
Even if we always talk about that we are in BNI, like there's a lot of content there that they share to help us learn, learn from others. But you just be looking to learn, be open. I guess my suggestion would be open to other ideas. Like, yes, you've been doing something a certain way for a certain amount of time. Like us, we've been doing things the way we've been doing them. But there were a lot of things that were said this week that I was like, you know what?
I mean, I'm on TikTok.
We're going to do some testing. We're going to do some testing. We're going to look and see what improvements we can make.
Exactly.
And you should always be striving. And that is something that we do, at ASMM. Like, we're really good about like, okay, let's pivot. Let's try doing this a different way. We'll take, and then we can make a decision as to whether or not we stick with that or go back to the way it was or whatever. And I think that you need to be flexible and you need to be open to new ideas.
Yeah. I want to say something actually. I want to go back. Don't let me forget to go back up to making the most of your conference because I want to talk about that. And I think it's important. But with the pivoting part, I want to talk about something that we've realized. I used to think that I made decisions too fast, that my fast decision making was a detriment. It was a character flaw. What I have found by coming out to conferences like this is that most people don't act on the things that they learn. And being able to say, you know what, I'm going to test it. I'm going to try it. And think of it that way. Maybe that's why we are able to do that so quickly because we're going to test it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll go back to the old way.
Yeah.
Be willing to test it. Be willing to try it. Be willing to take what you've learned and apply it into what you're doing. Don't just learn it for the sake of learning it. So that's a huge part. I want to go back and talk about making the most of the conference because I saw this, and I will tell you, I saw this with people who own the business who were out here, and I saw it with people who were employees of the business. The first time I saw it was a few years ago when we saw employees, and then say, my boss sent me out here to this conference, and the first day I'm going, but the second day I'm going to Disneyland. And I was like, oh my God, that's totally stunning, right? But we also saw it we saw a couple of business owners who were just going out to lunch by themselves and taking these long lunches and missing some of the things, right? And so if I'd missed Brian Fanzo, who really just kind of turned my world upside down with his presentation this week. If I missed Mark Schaefer, you'd missed Ann Hadley, if we'd missed these people.
That's exactly what I was thinking of yesterday. Yeah.
It would be horrible. We'd be so disappointed.
And here's the thing. We didn't know who they were the first time we saw them.
Right. So, oh my gosh. The guy I saw yesterday afternoon, I never heard of him.
Yes. So I think that's what you need to to make the most. Like, yes, and I get it, you know, like I mean, we're in San Diego. Like, it would have been really nice to sit out and have a nice long lunch. Granted, the schedule this year didn't allow for lunch on Wednesday. What day is it? Tuesday. On Tuesday, it didn't allow. There was no lunch break. On Wednesday, there was a lunch break, so we could have gone out for lunch. But on Tuesday, there was no lunch break. You know, so if you are, you know, go and have it. If they've given you the time for it, you know,
right, exactly.
Go and relax, because it is exhausting. It is so mentally draining to be at these things.
I have to say the other thing, and this is just an opinion thing. I'm not judging you, but one of the reasons I did not go out, and I know you did not go out for the after drinks, right? For the drinks and things, was because I needed to be fresh the next morning. Yeah. I knew that I was here for the learning. Networking with the marketers, we did some of that, but we didn't need to do so much of it. There weren't people who were going to be our clients, right? And there were people who we talked to, but we didn't need to go out and drink with them in order to make that connection.
And I think that is like the one exception to where I feel like, hey, if you've met somebody who could be a potential client and they want to go out for lunch with you, maybe like just double check and see, hey, should I can I miss something here?
Right, exactly.
And do I have the ability to go back and watch it? Granted, I would like to know the statistics of how many people actually go back and watch these things.
Absolutely.
I plan on doing that, but I would like to know. Last time I didn't. Last
time the world turned upside down.
That's true.
So to be fair,
yeah.
So all right.
Yeah.
So I want to go to the next thing real quick and just say, I want to remind you that Burgers and Bans for Suicide Prevention is coming up. That will be in May 15th. So if you are in Maryland or anywhere nearby, come by. If not, go by and make a donation. We're making big changes in the world of mental health. Actually just this morning, AMVETS called us and said, hey, can you be involved in our Memorial Day walk in Washington, D.C.? And we said,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. So do think about going over there, making a donation, becoming a part of it, just sharing about it. It will make a big difference to us. Also, if you want to learn more, our website is always there, ASMMdigital.com, and there's a blog on it, so ASMMdigital.com/blog, and we have so much content. It is crazy how well we're a digital marketing agency. If you hire a digital marketing agency who doesn't have a lot of content, think about it. So, just to say, all right, we will be back in Maryland next week. Thank you, whoever, God's above, for making sure we have warm weather there, because this has been too nice to leave. Well, so
that's what I said to the guy who was checking out bags this morning. I was like, 3 years ago it rained the whole week we were here, and I was fine to leave, but now I'm like, oh, it's so nice here in San Diego.
So nice. So